Greetings. Welcome to a joint program between the DragonCon Urban Fantasy Track and the DragonCon American Sci-Fi and Fantasy Track, or Fantasy and Sci-Fi. I'm not sure which way it goes. It changes, doesn't it? And you have both directors here with you tonight, as well as some wonderful panelists. And we do apologize for the late start. That is totally the fault of my internet connection here in semi-rural northern Georgia, and there's a storm going through. So if I disappear, that's why. And Kelly will take over the whole time that and I will come and go. But let's have everybody introduce themselves first, and then we'll get going. And if I have to leave, then I will come back as the internet gods will allow me. Kelly, how about you first?
All right. Well, as Carol mentioned, I'm Kelly Harkins, the director of the American Science Fiction and Fantasy Media Track. Just to clarify that, so people don't think, oh, well, she does fantasy literature and things like that. No, we strictly stick to the media. And it looks like it's going to be a fantastic year. So lots of good things coming up, including the Old Guard. So yes. Not a con, though. That's why we're here.
Okay, Marks.
Hey, I'm Mark Spile. I'm a writer, filmmaker, podcaster guy, and I'm a founder of a publishing company called Cabot Crossing Publishing. We do a lot of urban fantasy and other genres, and I like Immortal since Highlander. Since the beginning of Highlander, I've found Immortal characters fascinating. So,
okay, Davier.
Hey gang, really happy to be here with this very cool panel of folks. I'm Daviar Snipes, stage and voice actor out of Atlanta, Georgia, at the Alliance Theater down here representing. So happy to talk about this movie and see what people think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Diana.
Hi, I'm Diana, but I'm also known as D.R. Perry, YA fantasy author. I usually go to DragonCon, but not this year, unfortunately. But I'm very happy to be here on a panel because I love doing them. They're fun. And I hope you think they're fun too.
Thank you. And Rob.
Hi, I'm Rob Levy. I'm a podcaster, writer, and I guess quasi-journalist from St. Louis. And hello, this is going to be fun.
I think so. Now, just to give a little bit of background, we did a panel during the first movie came out during the pandemic, and Kelly and I, it was one of those things where this particular property did not get assigned to a particular track for that year because, well, there was no in-person con for one thing. And Kelly and I both felt as though at least in the case of the first movie, and that still holds true for the second one, that it was the kind of thing that could have ended up with either one of us and it would have been appropriate on either one of our tracks. So we decided, well, why don't we just do a virtual panel since that was the only kind we could do at that time. And so here we are doing number 2 virtually because now that it's, con is coming, we don't get to see a whole lot of each other during con. So we decided why not do a virtual one so that we can talk about it, especially since it only came out, a month ago. I think it was on the 2nd of this month. And we thought, well, while it's fresh on people's minds, they might enjoy hearing about it now. And plus, we will link it to the app so people can watch it later if they want, or anytime on My Track's YouTube channel. So that's a little bit of the history of it, of how we did it. And on that panel for the first movie, Rob was also there. So and we're very glad he's back, and we're very glad to have some new voices discussing this very interesting and we'll talk about whether we think the concept and the delivery, lived up to one another, I suppose. But my first question is about the characters. Did you feel as though any of the new characters, which there were some new ones added this season for obvious reasons, but did you feel as though that they really overshadowed the original? I mean, did they kind
So it's like we said, Carol's having some issues. I'll continue with that question. And I will let Marks go ahead and start that. Do you feel like the new characters overshadowed the old team, or
Not Andy, and definitely not Niall. She I think she was a lot stronger in this one versus the previous one. She tended to blend together with the group, but maybe a little bit with the rest of them. At least I can't remember all their names. Not Booker stood out a little bit, but Nikki and Copley, is that the name? Or
Copley?
no.
Yeah.
Copley.
Yeah. Well, Copley, yeah. And the Tua was really interesting character. He's sort of like a watcher, immortal, so he did stand out a little bit. And of course, the new bad or baddish characters stood out a lot. I guess really, if you would say anything, Niall maybe outshined a lot of the other characters except for Andy. So because she really seemed to blend in, I think a little bit stronger this keep wanting to say season, this sequel than the previous one. And she's so important too, right? You find out.
All right. So Daviar, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Can you give me the prompt again? Did the new characters outshine any of the old
Yes.
characters?
Do you feel like the new characters were, overshadowing the old ones, or vice versa?
I don't. I think Tua for me is one of the new characters that I think was most notable, and I thought he blended in with the team very well with kind of what his purpose was and kind of what he brought to the table. So I was ready for Uma Thurman as Discord to take over and kind of be like the new Andy for this part 2 and be the focus. And it wasn't written like that, and it didn't have that. So, and then we have Quinn, who, even though Quinn was shown in the first film, she really got to be in the movie in this second film. So for me, I don't think any of the new characters really outshined the part 1 casts as in some cases I wanted them to. But so I guess we'll wait and see for part 3, which this movie is clearly a setup for.
But I will say that they haven't confirmed it's going to happen.
That is
They
true.
a little
Factually.
disturbing, actually.
That is factually true.
I was of the same opinion. Oh yeah, clear setup for the next one, and that's going to be when.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So Diana.
I really think we had the opposite problem in terms of Discord. She was overshadowed by everyone else. I really did not feel that she was dangerous until the last big fight. Really easy to underestimate her. And then Quinn was, I expected her to be someone who felt like she could fit with the group, and she does. She really, she feels like one of them. I think the actress did a great job with that. And Tua is sort of, okay, I'm going to stick with my library, my archives, and, stay with the books and everything kind of guy. And his character made sense in his context, but sort of the apartness I felt that from everybody, like his deal was like that was self-imposed, and I didn't feel like it was something that was done unintentionally. But as far as overshadowing goes, no, I really kind of don't think any of the new characters did that. I felt like I had a lot of fun watching Niall just go all out in her combats and really just be this warrior. I really enjoyed that, and I thought she was great. And nothing overshadowed her. She stole every scene she was in. She was awesome.
So one of the things that I loved so much about the first movie was the character building, and that we didn't really get as good of a job with that this time. So that's kind of why I think, between Discord and Tua, we didn't get the full exposition as well as we did in the first movie. Like, I thought they did a much better job of explaining sort of Tua and his backstory and sort of getting him implanted in the movie and up and running much better than they did Discord. I think the best parts with Discord are the parts where we don't know who she is. And then once we kind of know who she is, it kind of falls apart. So I still think the old characters still get more in the movie. And that's mainly because they ratcheted up, what we get from Copley and Booker. And some of the other characters take a little bit of a back step with the new characters coming in. But I don't dislike the new characters. I just wish we had them a little more fuller.
Okay. Well, since Carol's not back, I'll kind of add mine. I will say that I think we see. I totally agree with you all on Niall. You really see her kind of coming into her own now. She's established herself. You see the team working together. I think the team itself is very solid. And you really feel that team vibe from them, and how she fits into them now in that aspect. But is it such an old hand that just doesn't still make mistakes? So I think that was good. I tend to agree. I mean, when I heard about the concept of Discord, I was like, ooh, this and Uma Thurman with a sword, I'm all on that. But it's like we always had this perception of Andy's, one of the oldest, et cetera, and then suddenly, like, we hear about Discord, and it's like, where's she been all this time? So that part kind of was like, I expected more behind the scenes kind of machinations if she's kind of been there, but maybe it's kind of the same idea as with, kind of that I just want to die that we've seen with, is it Copley? Wait, my brain, I'm switching their names too, but it's like, Booker wanted
Booker, yeah.
Yeah, Booker wanted to die. So maybe it's just that kind of same thing. It's time to end us all. Although why, I'm not sure I really got a sense of why she felt it was necessary.
Yeah. Well, she was mortal now. So if she can't have it, no one can. That was what I got out of it.
Well, I got that she wanted to be immortal again, and then she wanted to wipe out her competition and feel safe. She's everything about her has been like she's been so obsessed about being safe from threats and stuff.
True, yeah. And she was going to siphon off all their immortality to keep herself going as long as she could. But it still seemed like it was kind of after the fact mentioning. That kind of thing kind of bothered me in that sense. So was there, y'all kind of up and hopefully. So Carol, we finished the question. So do you have another one?
I did. I sent it to you via Facebook, but now that I'm here for a minute, or via Messenger, one of the things that interested me in the very first movie.
Oh no.
Okay. Well, she did send me the question. So the concept of choice. Now, in the first movie, they kept saying they didn't have a choice in their own destinies. Now, they could not die. They couldn't do that. And of course, then we end up with the betrayal in the first movie, the wanting to die. I've seen all my family, et cetera, et cetera. But in this one, the team itself seemed to have a different mentality towards destiny. What are your thoughts on that? And did it come through? Did it not come through in that sense? So, Debbie, or why don't we start with you this time?
Oh, I'm going to give that one to me. Yeah, see,
we're not hearing you, Debbie.
Oh.
Really? I can hear him.
Yeah, you're not muted.
No.
No, I hear you.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yes, I guess I'll just keep
you work
talking.
on that. Diana, why don't you go ahead and try?
Okay, so
maybe it's me.
Destiny. Oh, you can't hear me either?
Or maybe it's from
I can hear.
Carol.
I heard
not
Debbie
me,
or
dear. I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear everybody.
Yes, I can hear everybody too.
I can.
You can hear each other, but you can't hear
I
me.
can hear Kelly. I can hear Kelly.
You guys go ahead. Hopefully our audience can hear this. I'm going to pop out and pop back in.
Okay, so
Weird.
maybe I'll kick it off again.
Do you want to go?
DR, you go ahead, my friend, and I'll come in after you, or we'll swing it around again.
Okay. So,
Take it.
hey, you get out of the hot seat. So like their like destiny and their choice about what to do is it's not about that one choice of like, do you get to live or not? It's about what you do with it. And I think that they figured that out at the end of the first movie. And so the second movie, they're really not there with it, because they're also all following Andy, and that's her mentality. Her mentality is like, you know, it's what do I do with the time I have, no matter what it is, right? Because in the first movie, it seemed like they were sort of by rote reciting this whole, it could, our immortality could be gone at any time and we won't know it. Like, sort of like, yeah, okay, whatever, but we've never seen it happen, so whatever, you know? And they really believe it now, right? At the beginning of the second movie. And then you see Tua come in, and he comes in with this legend and all of that stuff. And of course, Booker believes it wholeheartedly because he's gullible and not really, you know, thinking most of the time. So he just goes off and does something rash and with that idea. And, you know, he's absolutely exercising his, you know, choices and not leaving things up to some, you know, three fates with like a thread making operation. So there's definitely, I think the characters felt like they believed they were in more control of their lives and their destinies this time around than in the first movie.
That pretty much sums up a lot of what I thought. I think that, you know, outside of the idea of mortality and immortality, the other big thing here is like when you are immortal, there are certain destiny things that, you know, the price that you pay for being immortal is you have to work around these certain things that are destined, right? So like the largest is that, like, you know, at some point you're destined to lose your immortality. So you still have to kind of like worry about like, can I change this light bulb without falling off the ladder and dying, or am I okay because I'm immortal? I mean, you have these like, so I do think that there is some heightened sense of destiny there. And also, you know, I'm sure at some point Andy has to know that she's going to probably run across Quinn at some point. She knows that's a destiny that they have. So I think that destiny is a huge part of the thing. And I think that it sort of, it drives some of the characters more than others. But I do think that it's sort of the cloud hanging over everybody's motives. I think it's the big motivator for the main protagonist and the antagonist. I think both Andy and Quinn and you know, Uma Thurman is. I think that's pretty much all driven by destiny.
I think in some senses, even though I was going in and out too, Carol. So, I think in some ways we're seeing the repercussions of the first movie in this, because they never really, you know, I think there's a certain jadedness when you live as long, and even though you get told, oh yeah, eventually it wears out, but when you live a couple 100,000 years, whatever it is, you know, it's like, well, you know, at some point there's kind of dismissal or something, to me it would be. And then when they're confronted with the whole medical bioscience and, you know, hey, you know, this can be taken away from you, because they don't know the idea, you know, about Niall being somebody who'd take that away, really in the first movie. But so that, to me, that's what this is in this movie. That's like that, okay, let's deal with this. Now they have to think about that. You know, Booker obviously makes those choices, spoiler alert, and realizes some of those decisions on that aspect. So, you there, Carol?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Did everybody get to answer?
No, myself and Marks.
Marks, yeah.
Oh, Marks, go for it, Marks.
Well, we'll just repeat a lot of similar thoughts that have been said.
Well, let me add this as an addendum then, before I got completely cut off. Do you think that they did it effectively, kind of showing two sides of the same issue? Did you feel as though, I mean, if you agree that one movie seemed to focus more on, oh, we don't have any choice, and then in this one, or that they're not obsessed with it, but that's kind of their thinking, you know, that they don't have a choice in what their destiny is, but by the time the second one rolls around, they have felt differently because of their experience. But do you feel that it was effectively done making that transition?
I think so. It's been a while since I've seen the first one. I did watch the last 20 minutes of the first one just to refresh in my mind before I watched the second one. And hopefully it does that big scene where he reveals, all the things they've been tracking and the ramifications, the ripple effect that they've had helping
Right.
people. So that I think that solidifies in their mind that they're on the right mission and that they have some control over it. And I think, Discord is trying to create her own destiny. She doesn't want to have anything to do with it. She's going to be her own thing. But there is a little bit of fate in there because we know now that there's the first and last immortal, apparently. So it's interesting. It's very mysterious their origins are and how they work. Kind of like in Highlander, they kind of know some stuff, but they really don't know everything.
Right.
It's kind of interesting how they do that. So you just become immortal and you're trying to make sense of it and find clues and figure out how this is work. So, so I think it was a good transition from the first to second, and then still playing with a little fate out of their hands with the first and last immortal.
Well, I want to add kind of to Greg Rucka, who was the comic book writer, was also one of the writers on this movie too. So he knows the material, no question.
Right. And, it's, I think that sometimes, I guess my point from asking the question was that it did seem to go, that it made sense for that sense of, that feeling that they had or that belief changing between one and the other. I mean, to me, it wasn't like they just woke up one day and it was different. I thought they did a good job of making that transition. And it helps when you have one of the originators being involved, I'm sure, to make it, to make it that way. And I do want to say that Mark's had a really good segue into at least what was my next question, was in regard to Discord. But before we get there, I didn't get to say it at the beginning because I was afraid I was going to get cut off. And of course I did, how many times? Anyway, this is actually video / panel / interview, whatever you want to call it, number 98 on the DragonCon Urban Fantasy YouTube channel. So congratulations to all of you for being on number 98. Just wanted to throw that in there. But yes, now in regarding Discord.
Got one more.
But
I'm
Davio
sorry.
didn't.
We had a Magic Mike situation.
So we had some issues too.
We had a Magic Mike situation, and it didn't include chest and abs. But what I want to say to this question is, I think it's interesting to actually end up being the last person to hear everyone else, because I don't know. I think for me, choice did not play as big of a factor in this movie as it did the first one, because I think in the first one, choice and what do we do and what do we continue to do with this power that we have, and that was kind of the foundation of the film. And then once Copley gives them this synopsis and this monologue about what their impact is, it seems that at that movie they clearly make the choice, okay, we're going to do this because we see the impact that we have, and we see how we can change the world. And so for me to have this second film where you've got this convicted group of immortals who are convicted to the idea of using our powers for good and however they can do that, versus Discord, whose whole thing is, no, we don't need to help society. We need to destroy it. I thought that could have been I was expecting that to be a very good juxtaposition between the two sides, and with that battle between them and the philosophies behind it and all of that. And I don't, for me, really feel that it was as there or as apparent as I want it to be. Like, it was there on a surface level, but not there to the depth that I thought it could be when you're talking about immortals who have seen existence for thousands of years. Right. And so I thought it was more apparent in the first film than here. And because because Booker had the same choice that he had in the first film, which is, I'm done and I want to die. So his choice really didn't change, and he saw an opportunity to make it happen again, and he took it again. So he's been consistent in that. And I thought too, with the addition of Tua, that could have been really interesting, where you've got the knowledge keeper basically to kind of be, the centerpiece in this clash of ideals. But I just wanted to see a little bit more of that, because I agree with you all that I think that is the major linchpin for what this movie could have been. Just wanted to see a little bit more.
Oh, I just wanted to say one other thing, and it was that all of these people, they're from such different time periods, except for two of them, they're from the same, but they're like, and yet their idea of fate and destiny is monolithic. And they're all from different time periods, cultures, and areas of the world, and it shouldn't be monolithic. And I know it's just movies, they don't have a lot of time like a series would, but it would have been really cool to see that explored. Like, how did they get to all be having the same idea about fate and destiny? Because it differs widely based on cultures and time periods, and it's really, and then forget about personal belief and personal interpretation of your own culture and time. But that would have been interesting. Anyway, that's aside.
No, that's a good point, though. But I think you're right. Go ahead, Kelly.
I think they would have solved that in I believe, if I remember right, the youngest one is 200 years before Nile. So do you think that is just stuff that would be in flashbacks? Or...
It would just have been cool to see. Yeah, if they'd had time.
Yeah, because that would be kind of going back as far as it goes. So
right.
And DR, take it, Carol.
Well, I was just going to say, it would be kind of hard to represent that. I mean, I get your point about the fact that they should not have had somewhat the same ideas, but that, or the same kind of belief systems, but they could have kind of come together with that after having spent time together. Because if they were going to have scenes of them just sitting around having philosophical discussions, that isn't quite the same as what they were trying to show, I think, in the movies. But if they had done if they'd had more time to do a little bit more of reflection via flashback, then that would have been possible.
Yeah, when I was watching Old Guard, I was like, why does this give me the same vibes as Highlander sometimes? And I realized, like, Highlander does a really great job with all the flashbacks and really getting to know the immortals, and usually parallel storylines like that link to the flashbacks and relationships with mortals too. These characters are very insular, like, except for the one SCI agent. We're all just our pack. We're mortals helping out those silly mortals out there.
Right. 4 hours and
a TV show. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
100 and some episodes.
Yeah, that's kind of why the TV show might be a little better than some of the movies.
Well, who knows? Maybe that will come. So now, since I messed up a minute ago, I thought somebody had said Marks was the only one who had to go. So I apologize, Avior, but has everybody answered that question since I was gone for the first part of it? So my next question is about Discord. And what I want to find out is do we think that the reason that she is now mortal is because Nile was born / created? And if so, I mean, because she's the last, she was the first versus the last. And if so, do you think that this is kind of a logical explanation in the context of this world? Does it make sense with some of the other things that they have done? Who went first last time, since I wasn't here?
It was technically me, so it's DR's side.
Oh, okay. You're up, Diana. Diana.
Okay. So I don't think that it makes a lot of sense, but I don't think it's supposed to. I think Tua's research isn't. He says it's a theory based on a myth that's older than he is. So, he's just as good as his research, which he admits is not very good. I don't think that they have everything correct about it. Booker is extremely lucky that that part of the theory was correct, of passing something on. But you know, I think everything else is very shaky. And if there's a third installment, which I really hope there is, we're going to see what's right, what's wrong, and what might just be a missing piece that could answer how did Discord lose this immortality? Like, what happened? There's got to be a way for them to lose immortality that isn't Nile stabbing them either, because there's an unexplained loss from the first movie that Andy witnesses with Quinn. And you know, maybe Quinn will have more answers about that later. Because it's Nile absolutely wasn't around back then. Is this a cycle of some sort? Every so often a very old immortal gets replaced with another one, and maybe that seems to make some sort of sense. You know, it's such a different era now, and maybe it was such a different era then. We don't know how old that other immortal was. So,
Right. Okay. Rob.
So I'm wondering, you know, part of this is like they can't answer every question in every movie. So I am 90% sure that they intended to leave that in the third movie to keep everyone coming back. But also, these characters have lived lives where they're immortal. So they have the entire past to draw upon. They have like tremendous power and resources and things. They have to have some sort of like plot thing to keep them wondering, right? They can't be like omniscient and eternal, right? That's just that starts getting crazy, right? So I think having them, because they are immortal characters that in theory can't die, they have to have something that makes them wonder about what's going to happen. So I think that idea of like not knowing
Right.
you know, when you're going to die, and also not knowing who is and who isn't going to be the next one. I think that sort of gives them this sort of like existential thing they have to grapple with, that, you know, the film sort of needs because of the context that it's set up within itself.
Okay. Kelly?
I think there's two interesting points here. I think, you know, Rob makes a good point. And I think in some ways their lifespan is similar to ours in the fact that we generally don't know when we're going to die. So there's that, you know, oh, things are going fine. And then suddenly, you know, oh, wait, I got wounded. I'm not healing. And that's that awareness. So I think there is a parallel there, unlike, you know, the Highlander mentality in that sense. But the thing that kind of, again, maybe it's a secret that they were going to drop in the third one. But while we have the theory about what Nile is, my question then is, okay, how is Discord the parallel then to her? If it was, they were kind of implied she was the first, does that mean she started them? And what did she do to start them then? Is it she interacted somehow and that turned somebody, you know, and that brings that whole element in there, because they clearly seem to imply that Nile has to interact at least somehow for that to go away. So I don't know. And then of course there's just wearing out. So
Yeah. Right. Well, you know, it's like in the first movie, Andy does say something about I'm just tired, you know, and it's like, yeah, I guess if I'd been around as long as her, I'd get tired too, whether you're immortal or not, you know. But I did get a kick out of there was a scene in this second movie where they're sitting around, and this fairly soon in the beginning, and she said, you know what's one of the worst things about being mortal is hangovers. How do people stand? And that was pretty funny. So, but yeah, they can't know everything all at once, and that's a good point. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a movie for us to watch and learn, I guess. Marks?
I think from a writing perspective, it's good for them not to know everything, because it gives them stuff to uncover. I think it's real, right? Humans don't know everything about us humans, right? So why would anything else know everything about itself? So I think it's good to do that, keep the mystery and keep plot twists and stuff that way. Highlander tried to explain their origin in Highlander 2, and it was not popular, did not go down well. So sometimes like that and metachlorines for the Force, sometimes you want to keep a little mystery. And so it's probably good to do that. So, I think we'll probably, there's a third movie, we'll learn there's a twist or something else going on with that whole first and last Immortal, which will be fun to learn. So I think they were saving Discord really for the third movie primarily, because I think in the graphic novels, Quinn, or a character she's named differently in that graphic novel, but she was the lead bad guy, and there was no Discord. So I think they're just trying to lead up. To me, they thought, let's make a trilogy is what it feels like after the end of the second one. So I'm curious to see what they do with Discord and what kind of twists they put on the whole Immortal thing, because I don't feel like they got it quite right yet. So.
Oh, okay. Davior.
Yeah. So for me, I love the concept that the Immortals don't know everything and are still trying to figure it out. Because imagine living thousands of years and you're constantly figuring out who, what, and why. Why me? What is my purpose? Living with the curse of immortality, or if you choose to see it as a curse, or living with the gift of immortality. So I like that the Immortals don't have all the answers. I hope the writers do, because I never like it when the writers don't have the answers. But but I actually like the idea, and we're just kind of all hypothesizing here, that the birth of Nihil represents the end of Discord. Because if there is something that has to begin something, then there has to be something that ends something, just by nature. And I think maybe the shared birthmarks is maybe something that symbolizes that. And I like the fact that maybe these are people who are just randomly born into the world. Maybe we learn why in possible movie 3, or maybe it's for them to figure out why they're here. And I think it seems, just going off of these first 2 films, that maybe Discord's pain and villainy comes from the fact of, I've lived all this time, and now I just have to die now for no rhyme or reason. I can see how that would lead someone to have very villainous thoughts about, well, then burn it all down. Because it's all the things I've had to see, all the things I've had to live through. And now at the end, I'm just going to die like a normal person. Then what was the purpose here? So I like that question. And I think that gives motivation to Discord. And I also like that it gives an extended purpose to Nihil. Because now it's like, okay, so what do I do with this now? If I am the last one, how do I carry this on? So I think those are interesting questions for me that this film kind of sets up.
Okay. Kelly, should I keep going, or do you want to ask some stuff too? I have more questions, but that's up to you.
Sorry, I was just typing you a question.
Oh.
Actually, I do have a question, which kind of ties into some of what Davior was saying and what some of you all were saying. So it occurred to me, since, so many of the characters in this, we connect with like all of them, except one, are immortals. Literally all of them. So I kind of want to see your takes on how Copley kind of adds to this. And of course, his role was almost adversarial in the first one, as he's trying to figure this all out. And now he's part of the team. So I want to kind of get your insights on how you see that role changing, how it added to it, and that mortal kind of representative in that. So, Rob, you're first then this time.
So after the first movie, I thought Copley was going to be like just the guy in the office that sent him out. He was going to be like the John Forsythe in Charlie's Angels, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought he was going to be doing. Was like, okay, go. But then all of a sudden he's in the field, which part of me loves, but part of me is like, exposition, guys, come on. But having said that, he's really an interesting character in the first film. This one, he's kind of very. He's not gray like he is in the first one. He's very utilitarian in this film. So, I understand that his backdrop is to be, the human concept of like, hey, I'm the human guy that doesn't have to deal with immortality and I can die, blah blah blah. But now that they can die, does that make him superfluous? Although I do think the scene where he tells, Andy, remember now, you can't die, or you can die, right? I think he's kind of a placeholder to remind these people of like, this is what you're going to be like. This is what your life's going to be like, right? Because they have this guy that, and I don't think they really cover this one emotional facet that I thought of this, that Copley is kind of the vessel for this, and that all of these people have had friends and people that they've met that they've outlived and have gone. And would they be comfortable with being around a mortal who they know at some point is just going to die and not be around anymore? Like, would they waste their time making friendships with somebody like that? Would they, how would they build an emotional bond? I mean, that's some of the stuff that I was thinking when I saw him. But I do think I liked how he sort of was the voice of humanity and sort of like, hey, I know you want to help people, but this is what people do. I kind of like his role as that. I wanted him more amplified in this film than he was. And that's one of the things that kind of bummed me out by it, is that, I didn't get enough of him. And he's very much the, he's sort of the Lyle Wagner of the whole thing, right? He's like the guy that like runs around and swashes and buckles with his guns and everything. And they kind of do all of the brawn. And I wish it was a little different.
Carol, do you want to chime in?
Sure, because I was thinking about him when thinking about the characters as a whole, and so I'm really glad you asked about him. But he in the first movie he did go through kind of that evolution where he doesn't like the way Merrick is treating them in the first one, but and he's got his not his murder board, his immortality board, I guess, or what his ripple effect board, we'll call it. But that's what it reminds me of, is a murder board up there. And I felt as though that his role in the second movie, I think he was doing what they asked him to do. They said, okay, you find us the jobs, and you're going to help erase, when we're involved in something. And I believe it was in the very first scene, or one of the first scenes anyway, not the one where they bring, what's her name, up out of the water, Quinn, but where they've gone in and taken care of something. And then he's like, well, my CIA contacts will be here in 10 minutes to clean the place up. So it gets demonstrated to us that he is doing that part of what they had asked as well. And I think that having him be the one who reminded them at the end of the first movie of all the good that they had done, and that they still had the potential to do more, and that he wanted to get involved in it, I think that helped them remember. And I think having someone who is mortal around them all the time, and I know, for most of the movie, Andy is also, but she didn't, she wasn't always that way. Whereas in his case, he always has been. I think that he was a good reminder of, well, he's been a lot of help to us. And so maybe these people out here are worth, giving more of our time to, even if we don't want to, as Rob was saying, get too attached. I liked him, and I want to know what the heck happened to him, because we never found out. We just hear the shots, and it's like, well, my money's on him, but I'm just saying.
Let's hope. Marks?
Yeah, I think if any, like your original question about any characters getting sidelined a little bit, I think Copley got sidelined just a little bit compared to the first movie, which I think they should have done the reverse, kind of like what Rob was saying. I think play up that mortal version compared to immortal aspect, even if it could have been funny stuff, like in Lethal Weapon with the older one, where he's just like, "Oh, my back," everything.
Right.
That's gonna happen. You get beat up and you get older. Got my tricky knee. But that's one thing that like Highlander. Sorry, you mentioned Highlander. I'm not trying to like say one's better than the other or anything. Just the only other immortal thing that I could think of to compare it to. But Highlander, I always has done a really good job, both in TV shows and movies, about playing up the whole like, especially someone you fall in love with and then who's going to die, at some point, and how that affects you and stuff. And I think Old Guard is trying something. They're just going a different direction, less romantic, more action. And I think it would have been kind of nice though to do a little bit of that, because that is something they're going to have to face with Copley, even if not just old age. I mean, he's taking a big risk running in there with them fighting. I'd be kind of like, you guys go first. I'll stay a few feet back.
He does hold his own pretty well, though.
He does hold his own quite well. So, but yeah, I think that would have been an interesting thing to touch upon and see how each character interacts. Because some will be more closed off because they feel like they're going to be hurt because when he's lost, and some people will embrace it and stuff. Niall, especially, who's a younger immortal, won't get it. So that would have been interesting to touch on that.
Javier?
Yeah. For me, I appreciate the question, because for me, I think Copley serves a couple of purposes. One, I think I agree with Carol. I think there's the practical aspect, because if you want to keep the immortals protected and hidden, then he's the guy that does all the surface level stuff. I make the calls, I get things cleaned up, I get them to their places so they can come in and do the work and then get out, and no one ever knows who they are and what they are, or that they were here. But all we just know is that the job was done, and I kind of like this, him playing that part. But also too, just maybe he also serves as, yes, he is their connection to humanity, and because these are basically gods when you are immortal, but I think he's the connection to humanity from the sense of he's the ideal, he's the normal guy who's in the fight with them doing what he can. And I think when you get to be the person who gets to fight alongside the gods, that's a reminder to the gods of, oh yeah, this is why we do this. For people like that, for people who have no power, who can die if he gets a single shot. But look at him, he's sitting here fighting next to us, because it's about the mission. It's about doing the good thing. And I think that's a constant reminder for them of, this is why we fight, for people like him. And maybe if the movie goes there, that if there's more people like Copley to kind of help take up arms, then that's further not only the reminder to the gods of why they do this, but also the counter to someone like Discord, whose whole thing is the world is evil and it doesn't deserve to be saved, burn it all down. When you have people like Copley, that shows that there are good people out there who are willing to fight the good fight, even if it means at the loss of their life. So I think in a lot of ways, Copley is probably one of the biggest heroes of the group, because he has everything to lose.
Yeah.
Diana?
He gave them a big gift. They were all of them were tired. I mean, they also felt like, why are we doing this? And he showed them this whole entire big picture. They'd only been seeing just a narrow view of everything, and they were very out of touch. They were helping people whenever they could, thinking it didn't have much of an impact. But it really resonated with me as an author, where I sit in a room and I put words on a blank document, and I don't know anyone's reaction for years. I have no idea why I'm doing it for years. And they are going centuries and even millennia like this. And then there's this guy who's the guy to me who gives the review on Amazon that says what they liked about my book. And I'm like, oh, that's why I'm writing. Okay. So it's a huge gift. It's enormous to be appreciated. And here you had this group of people that with all their power didn't feel like they were appreciated and didn't feel understood or like they could understand. And now they are understood, and they do understand. And that's why they need him, and that's why he's there. And here's the other thing about him being the token regular guy mortal. Okay. But is he though? We just saw a transfer of immortality in the second movie. Are we sure it didn't happen in the first? Are we sure that gunshot didn't knock Copley down and he's going to come back from it? Because Andy lost hers. She was stabbed by Niall. And then she welcomed him into the group. Booker gave his to her days later.
Good point.
Who knows?
Good.
Oh, go ahead, Debbie.
Fascinating point. I like that point. For me, I wonder if that makes Copley less special then, if he just turns out to be an immortal, because there's something about not having this fight be only the fight of the immortals that I like, if that's where the writers are going.
I could imagine he'd give it to someone else after what he went through with his wife. He'd go and pass that to someone else. And that's what I really think Niall might be, is not, Discord called her a destroyer. Discord didn't call her the last immortal. She called her a destroyer. And they have the same birthmark. Like I said, I think this is a cycle.
I do think it's interesting, especially when you have somebody unlike the Watchers in Highlander, here we have Tua, who's like the immortal representative and books, and you have Copley, who's the mortal representative, and he is the internet and all his files. And I think we're going to see kind of combining those two to finally get some more answers. At least that's, to me, that makes sense the way they're kind of setting that up. But that might be my fan brain doing that. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, Carol, I'm sure you have some other questions.
Well, and we've a couple of times it's been mentioned about the gift of or the immortality aspect. Well, I mean, that's what the whole thing's about. So yeah. But what was your opinion about that passing on of that gift of immortality? Did you feel as though that was something that worked within the narrative of this particular film, or is that something that maybe is a bridge too far, that didn't fit with the overall I guess the presentation of the movie? Or did you feel as though it did work? And Kelly, why don't you answer?
Well, I mean, I think it did work in that context. It made sense to me, that whole kind of bridge between them. And I actually, that's one of the things I think I had least issues with. So I will actually pass pretty quickly on this, because to me, that was a logic structure in there. So.
Okay. Marks?
Yeah, I think it worked well. It's very different than, it's the exact opposite of, in some ways, of Highlander, where they're like, it can only be one, so they're all just like hunting each other down. This is more like there's a group of them, and it's almost like a pool of energy, and it can be moving around to different people. So I think that's an interesting difference, and it was a nice twist. It explains. I mean, they showed it in the first one, but hid it, the reason why it happened to Andy. So I thought that was a nice twist to go like, well, it happened because of this, Yeah, I think it worked well.
Okay. Davior?
Yeah, I like the concept of the gift of immortality, and like, what do you do with that responsibility? And maybe even like, who's worthy of receiving it and why? So I think it's, maybe it's a way to kind of always keep that going. And so, yeah, I totally agree in that. I think these people exist for a reason. And if they exist for a reason, then I think having the ability to like share, to pass that gift on, I think makes a lot of sense to me. So, yeah.
Which they didn't know they could do until Tua found out the stuff. But anyway, Diana?
Yeah.
I think that it makes a lot of sense for, especially when you have people like Booker who can't handle it. I mean, there has to be a way out for people like that. If there isn't, then, it's just a cruel system. And, I feel like the way it is anyway, it's like she showed up when Niall showed up, it didn't coincide with anything as clearly as Booker's like betrayal. She showed up coinciding with his desire to end it all so badly that he was willing to end all the rest of them too. So, you know, maybe that's when you need a destroyer, or maybe it's because Discord wasn't doing her job. Maybe she's supposed to go around doing this. Maybe she used to, and now she doesn't anymore.
Okay. Rob?
So I didn't love it at first, but then the more I thought about it, the more I did love it. And one of the things I like is it creates this really interesting, you know, dichotomy for Andy, because, you know, she's immortal, then she's not immortal, then spoiler alert, she's immortal again. And it sort of emphasizes the gravitas of like choosing that lifestyle. Like, do you choose to live, you know, immortal, you know, if you have that ability to pass it on, right? Do you choose to give that, if you view that as a curse to somebody else? Do you view that as a blessing? Do you view that as a curse? Also, you know, if you're receiving that, do you receive a gift of immortality as like something really cool, or really like, you know, kind of like, gee, thanks, you know, another tie, right? And sort of like characters sort of like view it different ways. Like it's this thing that's in their life, but when it's gone, they need it again, right? So now Andy and Discord have both gone through this thing where like they know they're going to die, and they both view it as this sort of like overwhelming thing that's hanging over their lives, right? So if I'm giving that gift to someone, am I thinking about what I'm giving them, or am I just like thinking in the moment, I want to keep them alive because they're doing good things? Or, you know, is it like selfless like that, or is it selfish of like, please take this burden away from me, I don't want this anymore, you know, see you later, gotta go. So it's kind of an interesting plot twist, because we don't really know if this is a blessing or a curse yet, right? It's sort of like the Pandora's box. We don't know what this is, right? It's a Trojan horse, it's a Pandora's box. It's like a really fantastic plot device, because as they go forward with writing it and making the new one, it can be whatever they want it to be. And I think that's really clever. And it really opens up these characters a little bit more than it might have if they were just operating in that linear world where like, you don't know when you're going to die, and you die, and that's it. But, oh, wait, you're going to die, but you could give this away, you know, for what's behind door number 3. So I think that whole part of it is really fascinating, and I really want them to deep dive into it. And I don't mean to get all zen on everybody with that. But I thought that was really an interesting way to make people think about their lives and their actions as people that like have lived so long and not always had to answer for their lives and consequences. It kind of makes them think about that, which I think is a really fascinating aspect of this.
I think just one tie-up is, especially when it comes to Booker, the motivations and the way he sought death the first movie as the way he sought death in this one. I think it really was interesting to see. It was very selfish in the first one, where this one was very selfless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because in the first movie, he was, you know, he didn't take into account what anybody else's feelings might be. It wasn't as though he just offered himself up for study. You know, he was like, well, it's all of us. They're used to doing things all together, but to do that without, you know, that's not the kind of teamwork that you do without actually consulting the team first.
Well,
Yeah.
But he has a lot of problems with consent. A lot. That character in particular. He didn't tell Nile what he didn't even, not even after the fact did he tell Nile what she could do. She could accidentally cut any one of them during a combat, and that would be it. Like,
right.
Well, but he made sure to take the shot, though. He made sure that he was going to be the one to take the strike, and so I was a little confused about when Tua joined in to his intentions behind that. But yeah, heard on that.
Yeah, Tua was an interesting character because, you know, he was, you know, he went way back also, and for he probably besides hanging out in his cave library, which was admittedly very cool, he probably did have a lot of combat experience. But yeah, I mean, as soon as that whole passing on of immortality was mentioned, I mean, as soon as Tua told that to Booker, you could see it. You knew exactly by the look in his eye, in Booker's eye, what he was planning. And
But-
so then when he asked her to fight, but I thought it was interesting too. I don't know if Tua was just trying to get involved to keep anything from happening, or I don't know. But
Yeah,
but
I got the impression he was just trying to stop him because he was like, it's just a theory. You might lose your powers for nothing. It may not get transferred over, is what he was thinking.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I was sitting there with my spouse on the couch, and I was like, he did not do this. Not like he's not going to tell her. And I'm like, thank God for Tua. Like,
Right,
seriously, thank goodness he went in there and just like tried to get in the way. Like, oh my God.
But I do want to mention that I loved all the fight scenes, and I felt like they kicked it up a notch on all the stunts and fight scenes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was
first
that.
in the mansion. Ow.
Yeah, the mansion stuff. Also, the art direction in the mansion, the opening scene, the first big fight scene. You see those different rooms with these really powerful color pops and stuff. It was really cool to watch, and great location to fight in.
Yeah, even when they're going up that one staircase, it's kind of like the stair railing looks blue, but it's kind of like a reflection off the
Yeah.
neon. Like, wow, that pops, right? And sort of, it's a shame they had such horrible location shoots.
Well, they blew their budget on the blue staircase, Rob.
I mean,
It's a combination of classic rich and Novu Reach in that.
yeah, it's like I have a hard time feeling bad for these people because look at everybody's got a cool lair, right? Except Booker, who's got this like kind of run down apartment. But they kind of have this amass of wealth, that they can have this really like that house in Italy that they just happened. I think it's in Rimini. It's like, oh, all right, we're just all going to meet here.
Yeah.
Can't they get an Airbnb? I don't know.
Yeah. Why aren't they taking Uber and stuff? I mean,
Yeah, except that they aren't. Well, Kelly, if you don't have another question, I have a good question for us to end
Go for it.
on.
That sounds perfect.
Okay. So my question for the end is, what did you think of the end? And did you have a preference between which of the two movies? It's kind of a two-part question. Which of the two movies, was your favorite, most spoke to you? And I believe Marks goes first.
I like that ending as long as there's a third movie.
Right,
Basically.
I was like, I know, I'm watching. I'm like, you cannot do this.
Yeah, I know. When I saw it, I was like, "What? No, I guess it's a trilogy. I hope." So we'll have to see. We'll have to return to that if there's a third movie or not. But yeah, I like it if there's another one to happen. And then I don't know. It's too hard. I haven't seen one for so long. It's hard for
Right,
me
it's
to
hard to
say.
compare.
So I do feel like, as far as I remember, I feel like at least from a technical standpoint, the cinematography, the action, and everything was really it was better and such. And some reason, Charlize Theron looks younger than in the first one. Somehow, I watched it back to. I watched those 20 minutes, and I came back and I was like, "Wait a minute, how does she look younger in the second movie? That's weird. Is she really an immortal?"
Right,
So.
right.
Those,
Yeah.
those South African genes, man. are undefeated.
So it's hard for me to say. I can't really say for sure certain. So
You didn't have a particular preference. You just appreciated some aspects of the second one.
yeah, I kind of appreciate the two together. Maybe I keep wanting to say season 1, season 2 because I almost see it as a series that comes together. Like, I don't know.
Devier?
Yeah, the only thing I liked about the ending was the fight between Discord and Andy. As we were talking about like the ending moments, because it was great to see Andy take on, because we've seen her just be the ultimate, just awesome combat artist through the first film and through most of the second film. But then to see her come up against somebody whom she just could not defeat, because everything's basically every move she had ever had, Discord had seen 1,000 times. So that was fun to see from a villain standpoint. But yes, I'm right there with Marks. It is, for me, this second film just felt like a setup for the third film. Like, I didn't feel there was enough there for it to stand alone on its own. So I thought overall the ending just lacked a little bit of just payoff and satisfaction for me. And I think the first film overall was a much better film, just from a character building standpoint, just from an establishing the world standpoint, from a sense of just like the drama and the stakes. So it was, I didn't feel any of that was here. So I hope they correct that in the third film, if there is a third film, because if not, then this is a major drag.
Yeah, really. Talk about leaving us hanging. Yeah. Diana?
So, you're the urban fantasy track lead, so you know what I'm talking about when I say this. I felt like the end of Changes by Jim Butcher. So it was like, what is this? Like, if it was a book, I would have thrown it across the room. So that's how I felt about the end of the second movie. The first movie, like, it spoke to me a bit more, but I really did love the lore building that they did in the second movie. I thought it was, I was like, ooh, there's mystery here. There's stuff here. It's like something under everything. And I want to see it. Like, I would love to like just see more of that come out. And hopefully there is a third movie and it gives us, answers to that cliffhanger that made me want to throw the book across the room. And even though it's not a book, really, if there had been a book on my coffee table, it would have been across the room. Just, because it's not a book, but it felt like it merited that.
Okay. I'm glad for the sake of your TV or computer, whatever you were watching on, that you didn't throw them. So, Rob?
I was almost wondering if they filmed 2 and 3 already, because when I was watching this, I'm like, did my TV stop, or did I? I was like checking my remote. It kind of like in the way that with the Lord of the Rings movies, you see the hobbits all head off for their adventure, and they're heading off into the third movie, and it's okay. This is the exact opposite of that, right? It's like, it didn't really have a crescendo to end on. It's just kind of like, okay, here we go, so it was very, the ending was a little clunky, and that kind of bugged me. And I don't mind it being a setup, but don't make me think that there's going to be a conclusion and then give me, it worked in Empire and it worked in, some of the other stuff, but this is kind of like, oh, I guess we're done. It's kind of like, it was kind of jarring. It was so abrupt. It was jarring for me, which kind of distracted from a little bit of me enjoying the film. I think I like the first one better because I think the first one, much like Javier said, is that you can watch the first one and it's a standalone movie, and the world building and the people building is really incredible. This one, I think, sometimes bit off more than it could chew. I know they have a new director and a new style and everything. I was fine with the style changes. I'm fine with like the ramped up car chases and fight scenes because they worked. But I think that this one probably needed at least maybe 10 or 15 more minutes. I mean, you can have a cliffhanger ending, but sort of like rough out the edges a little. So because of that, I think I like the first one better. But I do appreciate sort of them building on that world. It's so nice to see a movie where they build upon the foundations of the first movie and carry it into the second one. That's nice. And it's not just a redo of the first one, and they do surprise you and throw you some curveballs and stuff. So I do appreciate that. But the first one, I think, was just so well put together that I don't know if I would have liked any second one they did.
Oh, okay. It couldn't compare anyway.
Well, it's different. It's different. I mean, it's sometimes I'm like, oh, I was like, oh, they made a second one. Did they need to? Oh, okay. It was just kind of like that. It didn't feel like there was obviously a hole for a second one. I guess is my point.
Right. It could have been concluded the way it was, the way it did. Even with that last scene, we would have been like, "Oh, well, that would be interesting." But
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah,
when
let's-
they leave Niall in a Ziploc. I mean, what? Okay, sorry. I
right. No, you're
Still
right.
mad.
Yeah.
Still mad.
Yeah. I looked it up, and the writer of the comics in an interview said that it's conceived it's as a trilogy, so they're hoping to make a third one.
Yeah, hoping. Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
Kelly, bring us home.
A lot of things that were said were very good. I was sure, we're talking Netflix here. So who's been notoriously recent? Like, here's a chunk of stuff. Oh, we're gonna wait a couple weeks. Here's another chunk of stuff. So
Right.
I was like, we finished watching. I'm like, oh, okay. When's the next? I was absolutely convinced that we were gonna see that, because not only was it a cliffhanger, but it was a downer cliffhanger, and it was like, what? It's even Empire Strikes Back had more positivity in that ending than this
Right, right.
Wow.
which is saying something. But yeah, I mean, and so I was quite literally shocked when I saw that they hadn't committed to the third one yet. I was like, oh God, no. So that did bother me once I realized that a lot. But I think there are some interesting things. And bringing up that final scene, some of the things that were revealed in there I thought were interesting. I mean, literally, when you find out Discord is matching Andy, but yet Discord's mortal. And, kind of that realization that hits Andy, like, wait, I can't beat you and you're mortal.
Right.
So I thought that was a really kind of nice thing in there. Again, it's another nail in the coffin of, okay, what's next? But I thought that was a really interesting point. And, seeing Uma kick ass with, oops, I probably shouldn't have said that, but with his sword is always a good time as far as that goes. So in that sense, yes. I mean, and we as fans, come on, we love world building. That makes our jam. I mean, that is definitely one of the things that makes us stay on board for things.
Yeah.
So, but I will, in that sense, agree that because they bringing in Tua, bringing in some of those other things definitely helped the world building. That fact that it does not feel like it's completed, it really hurts this one. And if I absolutely knew there was a third one, would that change my feeling? Maybe on that. But without knowing that there's a third one, I would probably lean to preferring the first one, just because it does tell a story. So where this does not.
Right. There are too many things that it leaves uncertain. Whereas the first one, just the uncertainty was the fact that Quinn shows up at the end. And so we're like, oh, well, that's an interesting story. But it doesn't make you feel as though, that nothing else was resolved. It was like, well, here's the little seed for something new. But I mean, we've got what, 4 or 5 people we don't know, what happened to them. So, or what exactly will happen to them. So hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully they will be able to do it.
I'm just tying in with what Mark said a little bit earlier about Quinn was kind of played up as she was going to be the villain, but then it never really paid off, really. She was kind of sort of there. And then, of course, it ends with, oh, we've made everything better now and we're going to work together. She definitely did not. That was the only other question I was thinking of bringing up was, Quinn's kind of role in this. But she did not feel like she delivered. And because of that, it didn't end up that ending where they're, okay, we've resolved, we're going to work together.
Yeah. It wrapped up a little too easy.
Yeah, it was after she realized that she was turning mortal, or that she wasn't healing. It seemed to be this switch that flipped in her brain, but it didn't. But there wasn't enough time for us to see that transition. For her to come to the realization that it's one thing to have your rage fueled by what happened to you, which was terrible. Don't get me wrong. It was what she went through was terrible. The way she was treated to get to that point was terrible. But yeah, I agree. I think it was a little too quick that, to her, from her going to, she wasn't the evil mastermind though, but she was the one who had, who was showing her rage, even though Discord had hers. She kept it under lock and key a little better, I think. But anyway.
Yeah. And I will also say I'm sorry about Tua's name, because every time I have subtitles too. I like to have those going sometimes. Every time I saw it, I just said how Tui. I don't know. So.
Yeah. Well, I actually had to look up a couple of names because I couldn't tell. Like at first I thought Quinn was Quinn. This was in the first movie, but then I thought they were saying Gwen. Mm-hmm. And then when I'm watching the second one, I was like, oh yeah, I never did figure out which was which. And so I looked and it's like, yeah, it was Quinn. It was a spelling that would more accurately have reflected her heritage, but it was still Quinn is what they were saying. And anyway,
it was, her character was Noriko originally. So I think they changed it because of the actress's ethnicity to kind of match it better. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean in the comics it was?
Yeah, in the comics.
Oh, okay. So. Interesting. Well, I want to thank you all. I especially, given the issues that we had with the technical problems in the beginning, you guys are the greatest. Thank you so much. Marks, I think this makes how many?
I don't know. I lost count.
I think you do have probably you've got the record for the number of virtual panels that I've done over the last few years, and much appreciated. So
that's okay, Carol. We know Mark's your favorite. Okay, we won't take offense.
We watch that kind of builds that in.
We know who she's giving. We know who she's giving immortality to.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. If I had any to give, I would give some to each of you. Believe me.
That's why I didn't have a Highlander shirt or anything, so I got the uni. So they never say die. That's as close as they get.
Oh, there you go.
They are good enough.
Yeah, but
dragons are immortal.
What's that?
What's that?
Dragons are often immortal.
Yes, they often are.
So, but I do appreciate all of you. We appreciate everyone who was watching this with us or while we were doing it, or anyone who watches it later. As far as the Urban Fantasy track goes, I will be doing a couple more of author interviews in August, but I may save those to make them some fun original programming connected to the app when con actually begins. But there will be more content coming, and please, for those of you who will be at con in person, I have a lot of fun stuff planned. Kelly, I know, does too. Kelly, do you want to tell them anything about what's something they can look forward to on your track?
Oh geez, there is a lot of good stuff planned for this year. We're gonna have a new charity event, which will be rolling out, or Geek Bingo, so that'll be fun this year. So there's gonna be a lot of neat things, a lot of great guests, of course. I am hopefully, I say this all too often, going to be doing, because there's so much content dropping like at the con or right before the con, that I'm going to make a strong attempt to get my on virtual panels as well come fall. So look forward to some of that. So come by.
Thank you. And a couple of you will be there with us in person, and both Marks and Rob will be there this year. We're very sorry that we won't have either Diana or Davior this year, and we've got our fingers crossed for next year. Oh, yeah. And look for them on more of my virtual programming, because they've all been regulars on panels in the past. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of the viewers, and let's keep our fingers crossed that nobody has bad weather for the rest of the night. I don't want to send any of our bad weather down to you in Atlanta, Daviar.
Oh yes, please don't, please don't. My power goes out very quickly.
We'll keep it. But thanks very much, everyone, and good night.
Good night. Thank
Hey.
you.
Have a
Bye.
great con.
Yeah.